What up, what up? So, in the last video, we were creating jumping mechanics for our player, and I mentioned towards the end of the video that I wanted to add Coyote time. If you don't know what Coyote time is, it's basically a grace period for when the player falls off the edge of a ledge. Most games have it. So basically, say the player goes to jump off the edge of a ledge, and they just about miss the jump, so then they don't actually do the jump. They have a really short grace period where they're still able to jump. It makes the jumping in a game feel a lot smoother, so I would recommend doing this if you're creating any form of game like a platformer. Or just in general, because when you don't have this feature and then you implement it, you can really feel a difference in just how responsive your game will feel. So this video is basically going to be a continuation from the last one I made where we actually created the jump mechanic, so go and watch that if you haven't watched it already, and then come back to this to implement it. Or you can just use this as a reference because this is generally applicable to any form of jump method which you have. Okay, so looking at the script which we created last time, we're actually only really going to need two variables inside of here. We're going to have a serialized private float called Coyote time, and I'm going to set this to something like 0.2. You can set it to whatever you want, play with it, see how it feels at the end. But then below this, we're going to have a new private float called Coyote time counter. Now I'm going to move into our update method, and where we're doing the if statement for is grounded, below the jump time counter equals jump time, I'm going to say coyote time counter equals coyote time, and then add an else at the bottom of this, saying coyote time counter minus equals time dot delta time. Following this, we're going to move into the handle jump state method which we created, and instead of doing and is grounded, we'll say coyote time is greater than 0. Now finally, our last part that we need to do is inside of our trigger jump logic. Underneath our jump state.start, we'll set at the bottom coyote time counter equals 0. Now guess what? This is going to bloody work. If we go into the project now and we put like a cube or something for the player to jump on and off of, you'll see that as we drop, we have a short grace period where we're still able to jump. Okay, so moving on, there's something else that I'd like to implement, and that's going to be jump buffering. A jump buffer basically just makes it so that if the player presses jump slightly before landing, we'll remember that for a short period of time, and then when they hit the ground, the jump will fire automatically. So getting this implemented as well is generally pretty easy. It's pretty similar to how we were doing Coyote time. We're basically going to create two new variables, a serialized float of jump buffer time. I'm going to set this to like 0.1 and a private float for jump buffer counter. I'm going to head down into my handle jump state, and where we added that Coyote time check earlier into that if statement, replacing it for the ground check, we're also going to replace the was pressed this frame with our jump buffer counter is greater than 0. Now we're going to head into our trigger jump logic, and where we added the coyote time counter equals 0 before, we're going to put beneath that jump buffer counter equals 0 as well. Now finally what I've done is I've created a private void method called jump buffer, and inside of here it's going to be if input actions.controls.jump was press this frame, jump buffer counter equals jump buffer time, else jump buffer counter minus equals time dot delta time. So essentially this is replacing what we were doing inside of the handle jump state as our was press this frame check. Now to round this off, inside of our update, above my handle jump state method getting called, I'm going to instead call the jump buffer method as the first method to get called. I think that makes sense. You can see it, you get it. Alright, so now if you go back into the project and you press play and you have an obstacle to jump off of, you'll see that when we fall off the edge, we have our coyote time working like before, but also if you press the jump button just before you hit the ground, you'll be able to queue up your jump. So you'll just jump immediately and it's much more responsive. So like I said before, this would really work for any game in which you're making. You can implement this logic for 2D games, 3D games, either or, it really doesn't matter. But yeah, the logic for this and the idea behind it will work for pretty much any jump method in which you have. Okay, so I think we're done for this one. Yeah, there's not really much else I want to add. This is a really useful piece of logic. If you're going to be using it in your game, I would highly recommend it. 2D or 3D, it's very, very useful. But yeah, don't know what the next video is going to be. We'll see. I'm literally saying that like every video now, but yeah, speak to you guys later.